play Citizens of Everywhere,
Oh,
which
yes. Okay.
it's an interesting one. So
Mm.
I think this one is not related to sex. I
Mm-mm.
think, at least based on the title. So I wanted to pick one. I wanted to pick a sexless play, not because
Mhm.
I have a problem with that topic, but I'll be interested in exploring this one as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things you explore in your work is the migration and
Mm,
how people
mm,
relate to
mm.
the place where they live,
Yeah. Yeah.
what they can do with their lives,
Yeah.
belonging, and all that. Is there a relation between that play and Brexit?
Yes, there is. So this is touching on what we talked about earlier,
Mm,
Vitor, with the kind of the family background. So, being from the UK, but having parents who were not from the UK, who were there as a result of European migration. So my mother would have been an economic migrant to the UK, as many Irish people have
yeah.
been historically. And my father's family would have come from Poland after the end of the Second World War, because my father's uncle had been in the Polish army, which then became part of the British army. So a lot of people came to Britain from Poland. So I've always kind of thought of myself as a European person, because that makes sense
Mm,
to me, because I have three different countries in the mix there. And then the UK goes and leaves Europe, which totally destabilizes that, European and this strange other country
mm,
that doesn't want to be neighbourly, doesn't quite have the same ring to it. So that prompted me, it was Brexit that prompted me to come and live in Dublin, because I do
mm,
have that real kind of strong ideological commitment to the EU. I think it's such an interesting experiment with having a pan-national government. No one's
yeah,
really tried that
yeah,
before. That's really exciting and really
yeah.
at testing the limits of participatory democracy. I think it's thrilling stuff. The EU thrills me,
Mm,
and just the values of it, that you can be from all over the world. My parents were from two different countries. I live in Dublin now. My partner is Spanish. It's this amazing kind of melting pot. I love that. I think it's so
yeah.
important. And it really upset me to see it destabilized. So anyway, I'm going on a bit because this is because my heart is broken. That's why I'm going on a bit.
Mm. I don't-
Um,
I totally understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you
it's
think
really,
it was a bad decision from British people to leave EU? Yeah.
I I really I just don't know. I don't know how informed people
Because
were
too
when they.
early, too early to tell, or
I think some people. I don't know many people who voted for Brexit. I will be candid about that. Most of my social circle voted the other way. I
yeah,
do know some people who did and who are still happy that they made an informed decision and that they felt it was the right decision. So that's great. I'm happy for them. I'm not happy for the people who voted for it, thinking it was going to, I don't know, help fund the NHS or whatever it was they were led to believe, and have now found out that's not true, and who are standing in 3-hour queues at a passport line in the airport, kind of going, what's happened? Why am I being discriminated against? I don't understand. That's a real shame that I think there is a population of people who voted for it without knowing the consequences, and I feel sorry for them. That's terrible.
yeah.
It's really, really shocking. It's a bit like the last referendum we had here of,
Mm,
if you don't understand the consequences, then be very be careful about what
yeah.
decision you make. And in retrospect, I'm not totally surprised that didn't pass, because people didn't understand it, and that is the safe option to take. And
Yes.
if only the same logic had applied to Brexit.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like in terms of information, it's very hard to know where is the good source these days,
Mm,
and
mm,
especially
mm.
because the big players, they try to take advantage of those topics for their own benefit. Let's
Yes.
say they sit on the yes side, and for that they will reinforce um, their position, as politicians or as influencers in society. And those who would be in favor of no, they want to start a new rebellion. So they don't really care that it stays as it is, just a tool, to
Mm,
tell that they still have some place, they still have a voice. So I'm kind of skeptical in terms of the people who are telling you to vote yes or no in those things, because I'm talking the big people. I'm not talking about talking to you, or I'm saying most talking about governments, NGOs, and
Yes.
media, corporations, press. All that. They're
Yeah.
all agents, so it's very hard to say. So the best is try to make up your mind on what is it about, and not just rely on what you see, from the big organizations.
Yeah. But in a previous life, I had an academic career before I went on to all kinds of different things. So for a while, I was teaching in a university in the UK, and I was teaching in a humanities department. So I was giving people their kind of general introduction to European history and intellectual history. And one of the things we were supposed to be achieving through that course is to teach people how to critically assess information.
Yeah.
You give them lots of sources to read, you give them historical accounts that conflict with each other, and you ask them to use their judgment and make up their own mind. Now, at the time I was teaching, it was just after, I think, the Liberal Democrat Conservative coalition had been elected in the UK. So it was the beginning of this very long Tory rule that we're still seeing the consequences of. Rule. And one of the things they were saying at that time about higher education, they were gutting out the humanities departments. The department I started my PhD in was not the department I graduated in, because they were getting smaller and smaller, and the funding was contracting, and they were merging together and all this kind of stuff. They were really pushing this idea that if you want a proper education, if you want to be a proper economically productive member of society, you've got to do science, technology, engineering, or maths. STEM. This is what we want people to do. This is what we want to be competitive in. And they defunded and defunded and defunded the humanities. They have a population, they're raising a population of people who can't think critically. And I think that suits them.
Yep.
And now we see how much difficulty people have navigating information online and all this talk of fake news and all this kind of stuff, because that skill, the skill of critical reading, is essential to being a citizen in a democracy, and it's just under attack. The humanities are silly. They don't make money. We don't need them. Yeah, we do. We really do, because if you get rid of them, you're going to end up with Brexit. So
I agree with you again. It's like we, the human. I'm also on the humanities side as my education and most of the things I do in life.
Yeah,
I believe that we are the core of civilization, and that's something massive. Now, it's not as profitable as other things, but they do matter. We are just underneath, and we are not that visible. So I understand that sometimes we need to be behind the queue. I get it.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that we are not there. We are absolutely needed. And if you are not, if you are removed, they are going to create an earthquake, like Brexit. Now, in terms of Brexit, I have friends who voted yes, friends who voted no. I understand both. I understand both. I just think that people who voted yes were very naive. They thought that, okay, Brussels will stay there. We will look after our country, and things will be fine for British people. And it's not that mathematic. It doesn't work like that, And the UK still has issues with migration. It didn't get any better since Brexit, and that was the main message of the yes, that we are going to give back the country to the people. Was it given back? I don't think so. Not that I'm not in England, so I don't want to make a big assumption, but probably not. So, and I understand that they were unhappy with some things that are happening in Brussels. I totally get it. But maybe the way to tackle is not to walk away, is to stay there and change it.
Yes. I think so.